Well, good morning, dear ones. August is upon us. We're more than halfway gone on 2025, and today's not as hot as I thought it was going to be. I want to talk about that. Today's talk title is Holy Moly, it's hot. And that in part is a an extenuation, if you will, an extending of last month's theme of the days in between. And in all my contemplations, nothing new came forward for August as like a theme or what we should be talking about or what needs to happen in this community. And I went away to Mexico, came back, stepped off the airplane, and walked outside the airport. The first thing I thought was, holy moly, it's hot. And I had just spent a week a whole lot closer to the equator and a whole lot bit lower in elevation than we were at. And I can't, holy moly, it's hot. And of course, I needed to provide a talk title for today rather quickly after returning. So that's how we get here. And what I know is every part of the journey, and what I learn more and more is every part of our journey is divinely ordained. Now, that is not to say that it is preordained. It's not that everything we're going to experience is just some other life form's idea of what should or shouldn't happen and would be a good time or wouldn't be a good time. We always have the choice to shift things, but mostly what we have the opportunity to do is shift how we look at them. I could have come home from Mexico feeling all flustered and blustered because I didn't have a theme and I didn't have talk titles and I didn't have all these things that make this spiritual community operate. And in there is part of the lesson because I also realized I didn't need to. One of the things that came forward um, this past week or the week before while I was in Mexico, and I've needed to remind myself of this lesson again and again and again this week. Being peaceful is the interpretation is excuse me, being peaceful is giving up the interpretation that there is something wrong here, even when there is something wrong here. That's not mine. I got it from David Bruner, and David Bruner got it from the Landmark Institute, and the Landmark Institute probably either made it up or got it from somebody else. But I really love that perception, that perspective that if we are here to be peace, to be peaceful, to bring more peace onto the planet, which many of us agree we are, then we have to give up the interpretation that there's anything wrong here, even when there's something wrong here. And I came back and holy moly, it's hot. This is not what's supposed to happen. This is not what it's supposed to be like. I just came from beautiful weather. It's supposed to be beautiful here and not supposed to be this hot. Well, wouldn't you, it would make a little sense, at least in my life, that it would be hot if you considered the talk titles I presented to you in July. We were talking about all kinds of fire and hot and burning and there's something burning within me, and what I believe is there's something burning within each one of us. A few weeks back at our open mic night, which is so much fun, by the way, and I'm having so much fun creating unique spoken word pieces for this community for those evenings. And during that, I shared a piece of music with y'all, but I want to share it with you again because I think it's pretty darn important that we hear the message within this piece of music. And what I want you to know is the recording we're about to watch is 12 years old. I'm trying to remember when exactly I may have been at the recording of this video when we first came to. No, I wouldn't have been. Maybe we were. Maybe we were at the recording of this video. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Let's get to it.
Will you stand in the fire with me? Help me hold my ground. And if my courage fails and I start to run, turn me back around. Will you stand in the fire with me? Open your heart with mine. I've never been down in such darkness before. It feels bigger than me this time. And I'm not asking you for answers to all of these questions or words to ease my mind. I just need somebody to listen sometimes. I will pay you back in kind. Will you stand in the fire with me? Tell me if you hear a sound after I call out to God for some kind of sign. Won't you show me that you're still around? Will you stand in the fire with me? And tell me that it's true, that there's a sunrise out there somewhere where I'm gonna smile, that there's hope for folks like me and you. And I'm not asking you for answers to all of these questions or words to ease my mind. I just need somebody to listen sometimes. I will pay you back in kind. Will you stand in the fire with me?
Part of what I love about a great piece of music is it takes on layers over time. As I remember it now, we were in the audience. Ooh. And at that time, this song had vastly different meaning for me. And this is not the first time I've shared that song in a talk or in a presentation or in a workshop. I actually have a deal with Reverend Barry. I send him $1 every time I do something like this. Every time I use that song, I send him $1. And I don't know if he ever cashes the checks or not, but I send it to him. Because during that time in my life, he was one of those people that would stand in the fire as I was finding my way in this thing called ministry. But the song is not reserved only for those that call themselves ministers or have initials before or after our names. The song is universal, I believe, And it may be that we sing that song to a partner, and it may be that we sing that song to the divine, and it may be that we sometimes have to sing that song to ourselves. Sometimes the one I need the most to stand in the fire with me is myself, is that reminder that yes, I can, and yes, I shall, and yes, I am. Over the last 6 months or so, I've been walking into a fire, I believe, with many of you, with some of you, with a couple, sorry, with a couple of you, but with a whole bunch of other people too. And it is this experience of Substack online. And some of you may have heard me mention this or heard a little bit about this or wondering what the heck's going on or any of that kind of stuff. And in order to understand my exploration of this platform, I want to back up just a little bit because there's been a part of me from the very beginning, as far back as I can remember, that had the sense of being an author, of being a writer. And over the years and over time, there's a ton of examples of rather poor writing on my behalf, to be truthful, out in the world. Luckily, in the age of the internet, there's so much stuff that you can't find much of it, which is even better. And yet, the call just was always there. I have notes in my visioning book that say literally, write the damn book already. Like, I have visioning notes that just hammer me, yell at me to write more, to do more of this. And as I was sharing much of this with my beloved, she reminded me that, I do have a box load of journals, and I have always been writing. I just haven't been writing in a way that speaks to something larger than just myself, than just trying to make up my own stuff. I believe I may have shared with this group recently, and if not, forgive me for that it's taken this long. I recently heard Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith say on a recording, "Don't let your social media be your journal. Don't make your social media be your journal." Doesn't mean we have to avoid social media. It doesn't mean that there isn't value in social media platforms, but don't make it your journal. But Substack is kind of almost says, yeah, you do want to make it your journal, but you want to make it a really good journal because there's a lot of really good writers there. And there's a lot of really cool people that are having a whole lot really cool thoughts. I don't find much of the gore or the clickbait or the sensationalized AI crap that's out there now. Remember, crap is a technical term. It stands for conditions repelling all prosperity. There's none of that AI crap on here. There is real, real people exploring what it means to be human. In one of my recent articles, I share how in Mexico I was introduced to a phrase that basically is sort of a little bit of a chuckle of the fact that we're all doing learning, we're taking the risk of doing business with humans. And I invite you to check out that article to learn more. And I write about this idea as well that is taking this idea of that being peace or being peaceful. Actually, this one comes out on Tuesday, so you can't find this one today. But being peaceful, as we started with, our quote we started with, that being peaceful is letting go of the interpretation that there is anything wrong here, even when there's something wrong here. And through this, I have personally had an opportunity to start stepping into the fire of saying, I believe in me. For me, for the longest time, it's easy for me to believe in someone else. It's easy for me to believe that you can do it. And yet, as the old joke states, there's no worse patient than a doctor. There's, I want you. I don't sing this song to you today to ask you to believe in me and to walk through the fire with me. I ask you to walk through the fire with you, with yourself. Because I also believe that we are all facing a fire. We're facing a time of great transformation on this planet. Not destructive. It might look that way right now today. Not burning away everything, or maybe. I wrote a new spoken word piece this past week, and I'm not going to share it with you because I need to keep it for next week for the spoken word thing for the and I knew that I couldn't like not tell you, so I also knew that I was going to have to tell you. So in the midst of it all, I realized I was going to have to come up with something special for you too. So um this is called the parable of the iron feather. We'll see how it goes. There once was a feather made of iron. It didn't know it was a feather. It believed it was a nail, something useful, something heavy, something that was hammered upon and made to hold things together. So it worked hard to stay strong and unbending, resisting every breeze that tried to lift it. One day a fire came, not a gentle warming flame, but a furnace kind of fire, the kind that melts, breaks, and redefines. The iron feather cried out, "Why this heat? Why this burning?" But the fire did not answer. It only burned more deeply, licking through every memory of what the feather thought it was. Days passed, maybe it was years. It was hard to tell in the blaze. Everything familiar, gone. Every shape it took, every shape it took pride in, warped. Every purpose it clung to, molten. And still the fire stayed. But the feather did not run. It did not try to leap from the flame, it stayed. Because somewhere in the center of the inferno, a whisper had come, not from the fire, but from within. You were never meant to be a nail, you were made to fly. The fire burned until all that was iron, the pride, the pain, the performance dripped away, and the true shape emerged. Not a feather made of iron, but a feather of light that had worn a coat of iron for too long. When the fire receded, the feather did not fall. It rose, as if for the first time. Above the ash-covered hills, beyond every map it had ever known, the feather rose and saw a landscape it had never imagined. A world where everything burned clean, where people glowed with the gold of their own becoming, where nothing was hidden and everything belonged. It saw heaven, not after death, but after surrender. And the feather wept, because it was more beautiful than it ever believed could be real. And it smiled, because now it knew the fire never comes to destroy, it comes to reveal. And so this week I invite you to ask, to inquire, to spend time in your meditations, to spend time in your practices, asking what is the fire come to reveal for you. It's only August. We got plenty of time for some hot days between now and the fall. So the next time you find yourself saying, "Holy moly, it's hot," know that the promise is that the fire brings the revelation. If you're feeling safe enough to close your eyes, I invite you to please do so. Join me in a moment of revelation. A moment where we set aside any questions about how or when or why, when we set aside the humanness, we set aside everything other than that recognition of the one power, the one presence, the one infinite intelligence that moves and breathes and has its being as all of life. That one self-existent cause that is right now taking on form and experience, a knowing it shall abandon that form, it shall abandon that experience in order to take on new forms and new experiences, new life. What I know is I know this oneness is right now and always has been and always will be revealing itself as each of our lives perfectly. Nothing missing, nothing absent, nothing broken. The oneness reveals itself as your life perfectly in this moment, in every moment. And we are here to accept that truth. We are here to embody that truth. So I claim for each one a deep recognition that who you are, how you show up in the world, all of that matters. Every moment, the consciousness you bring to the collective consciousness of humanity is serving to bring to bring all of humanity to a higher level, to a higher consciousness, to a higher vision, to a higher vista, to look beyond the mountains that we see to the mountains that we have yet to see, to envision. Lift yourself into that place of knowing right now. Everything is happening exactly as it must for the highest and the best of everyone. Even those I don't like, even those I don't understand, even those that don't look like me or don't talk like me, or even anyone that I may be at odds with, anyone that I may feel separated from. I release that right now. I let go of that right now so I may experience an even greater and deeper understanding of the oneness that is already present, that is our lives, and that cannot be denied. Hmm. We step into the oneness. And with great joy, we let it be. Release this word into the law that is already acting upon it, and let it be. And if any word of this has resonated with you in any way, I invite you to join me in an affirmation of truth as we say together. And so it is.